We are back looking at some different teams in the offseason. And today, for all you #dog pound people, it is a Cleveland Browns podcast. Today, joining us, we've got Brad Ward. Brad, how are you? Tell us a bit about yourself and what it's like being a Cleveland fan right now.
I'm excellent. I'm thrilled to get the invite from you guys. So thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, and it feels good to be a Browns fan for the first time in a long time. So I think the arrow's pointed up, and big critical off season. You can follow me at Ward on Sports on Twitter, and I write at USA Today. Sports media groups, thebrownswire.com, and my podcast is All Eyes on Cleveland. So
great. So as you said, it's a massive kind of off season for the Browns, and it's a good time to be a Browns fan. You know, the first playoff period and how long. And so, what was it like making the playoffs and thinking, wow, like this is as a fan, like this is what was it, 17 years?
Yeah, 17 years. Yeah.
What was it like as being in the playoffs?
Well, I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it was awesome. Didn't know if it was going to happen down the stretch, tough times there right at the end of the year. The COVID bug hit the Browns. They, lost the game to the Jets. They should have won. That really would have locked up the playoff spot, but they had no wide receivers because of the whole COVID knocked out the whole room. And then, it was just what made it sweeter was the win against Pittsburgh, right? And then that gets you in, and then you get to play them again. And, no coach there. Coach of the year, Coach Stefanski, wasn't even there. And it was just pretty incredible, a kind of a magical ride this year. They actually played the Chiefs pretty tough, for what we expected. They played them pretty close there, had a chance at the end. And, really this offseason, it's about getting the defense better, you know what I mean? So, and that's kind of the focus right now.
As you said, the offseason, looking at your defense, you still feel like you can improve in that area. Is there anyone in particular you guys are looking at in the draft, any position where you feel like this is where we can strengthen to get one more pass, just the wild card round?
Yeah, I mean, job number one, I think, for the Browns in the offseason is to find a solution or a long-term solution opposite Myles Garrett. We all watched the Super Bowl. We all saw how important it is to be able to get to the quarterback with four people. You can't blitz guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. You're just not going to be able to do it. The AFC is loaded with quarterbacks like that. And to get to the ultimate prize, you're going to have to be able to get home with four guys. So pass rushers is a premium, huge this offseason. That's the thing that the Browns need to focus on. They have a stud in Myles Garrett. They need to get somebody opposite him. And I think in the draft, at 26, I have my eye on a couple guys. I like Azeez Ojulari from Georgia. And I like Joseph Asai from Texas. I like both those guys. And I would also like to see him add somebody in free agency, maybe a value guy. It doesn't have to be a high-end guy necessarily, but somebody that can, definitely fill a rotational role in the defensive line.
So I've got something on that when you were talking about the pass rush and stuff. And the name that sticks out to me that could really work with Myles Garrett, but it needs a bit of tweaking and it needs obviously another team to look into it, it's probably Von Miller.
Yeah.
Something that's possible. Obviously now it relies on Denver and if they pick up the option and stuff. But I look at Von Miller and I think if you put Myles Garrett, Von Miller together, it does help a lot significantly with the defense. And then obviously right now I think your offensive line is set. That's fine. I think and the running backs are fine. There is the other thing for me, and I was interested in because I had the opinion of you can actually get rid of him, Odell Beckham Jr. I thought towards the season, as the season progressed, obviously he went out injured. Now I will say this: getting rid of Odell Beckham Jr. doesn't mean that he's a bad player. It just means that you didn't need him to fit as well as you needed. And I was just interested with your opinion on that. Do you think you should keep Odell, or if by getting rid of Odell, it allows you to bring in someone like a Von Miller, depending on what happens with Denver, would you take that or not?
Yeah, it's a tough question, man. I mean, because you see the stark contrast in the way that Baker played without him. The offense looked better without him. Now, the front office would believe that that's just the evolution of the offense, right? First year, and they just started to learn it better, and da 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 da. And then now insert Odell Beckham Jr., and they're going to be better, and everything's going to be fine. I don't necessarily believe that, to be honest. I think that he has a real effect on Baker. Like, he presses, like, he wants to get him the ball, perhaps being the natural quarterback that he would be, where he's just spreading it around, you know? And he's a presence, you know? He doesn't get the ball for 2 series. I get uncomfortable. Imagine how Baker feels, you know what I mean? So you're kind of like, I don't really know if it'll work. I'd like to think that it'll work if he comes back, but I am certainly listening to offers if I'm the Browns. Like, if somebody came to me and offered me a second round draft pick for Odell Beckham Jr., I'd be really tempted to take it, because I think you could then take some of that money and go get somebody else. Like, they need to add some speed to that wide receiver room. So go add a Brashad Perriman or a Curtis Samuel, and then bring back Rashad Higgins, who has been very successful in the Browns offense, who is a free agent right now. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. You can either bring back Odell, or you could say, hey, we can move him, get an asset and some draft capital, and bring back 2 wide receivers instead of 1 to fill that role. I think that's how they should look at it. I don't know if they'll get that offer, though. That injury is a tough one, right? Torn Achilles, and certainly I don't his work ethic. So I think he'll come back 100% from the injury. I mean, that one thing we know for sure about Odell is he will work his ass off. So I think he'll be back. So I'm comfortable with either one. I know that's kind of like on the fence, but I'm comfortable having him come back and let's see what he can do in the offense that progressed. But I'm also comfortable with moving on from him as well, because we saw what the offense can do without him.
Brad, do you feel like, so let's say if you guys do trade Odell Beckham Jr., get your second round picks, do you feel like improving the defense, improving that pass rush is more important than someone like OBJ? Because you've shown that you can get to the playoffs without him. I know he helped in the first start of the regular season, but you've got to the playoffs. You won a playoffs game without him. You still got Jarvis Landry, Rashad Higgins if he comes back. Do you guys feel like their defense is more important than OBJ, or do you feel like we can start the defense through the draft and we might as well keep him? Like, there's nothing wrong with having another weapon there.
Yeah, I think they can keep it. Here's the thing: is they do have him, right? So the extensions on like Mayfield and those guys aren't going to hit for like 2 years, so they have some room to work with this offseason. So even if they hang on, right, and take the $15 million cap hit, they still should be able to go out and improve the defense through free agency and the draft. So I think that you can go out and sign one big time free agent on defense. I think that they should look at safeties. I like Marcus Williams a lot. I like there's a couple guys that I like a lot in that safety free agent class. But the one thing that's interesting about this offseason, and I've had guys on my show the last couple of days, the founder of Spot Track and stuff, when you're talking a lot about the salary cap, it's going to be a weird offseason. A lot of guys signing 1-year deals because they don't want to sign their long-term deal on a season where drops by 20 million or 15 million, right? They're going to, sign a 1-year deal and then come back next year when the TV money hits and try to negotiate their deal that year. So it could be a depressed market, which would be nice, be able to add a couple multiple players there. So Browns need to add help at every level of defense. They need to add a pass rusher. They need to add a safety. They need to add corner help. And they certainly need a linebacker. So they need help at all levels of the defense. Now, how they go about doing that is probably a mix of free agency and the draft. But they can do that with Beckham on the roster, though, too, I believe. There's enough room there to do that. They rolled over dollars from last year, so.
And obviously, through that defense, you've got people like Terrence Mitchell. If you were the GM, would you try and bring him back, or do you feel like move on from it?
I love Money Mitch. Money Mitch is the man, and I would bring him back for sure. He has just been so valuable because of his availability, right? Like Greedy hurt, Denzel hurt, Money Mitchell always available and always playing at a starter's level. Like he's very, very valuable guy to that, and has played starter snaps for the past 2 seasons just because one of those guys is always dinged up, and so he's always playing and he's done a job. So I love Money Mitchell, and if you can get him at the right price, I certainly would bring him back. He might have priced himself out though. Like honestly, somebody probably views him as a starter somewhere, I would think.
So I was just going to say it's interesting that you mentioned about teams looking at 1-year contracts until the big money hits and stuff. In terms of the actual division with yourselves, the Steelers, Bengals, and the Ravens, where do you see the Cleveland Browns in that mix? Because if I was to rank yourselves, I would put the Bengals at the bottom. As much as Joe Burrow is as good as he is, I see them as a 6-win team and nothing more than that personally. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers above them, and they won't replicate what they did last season in terms of the starting. I see possibly them finishing as a 9-7 team, maybe 8-8, because I'm not a big fan of Big Ben right now. He's aging. Then it's a shootout between the Ravens and the Browns. And I guess for me, I would still lean a little bit more towards Lamar Jackson and then winning the divisions over yourselves. Do you see it that way, or do you think, I know as a fan you would probably think we are better, but do you see objectively as the Ravens and the Browns, or do you put yourselves above above the Ravens?
No, I think you nailed it. Actually, I would at this point until a team overtakes a team and beats them 1-on-1, you kind of just got to put them there, and that's how I feel about that. I mean, the Steelers are kind of falling off. They're in cap hell, and they can't really do anything about it. And they've got Roethlisberger who wants to come back, and he's not the same Big Ben anymore. And I'm like, great, awesome. He's beat up on us for 17 years. Let's get 2 more shots at him on the way out the door, right? And then the Bengals, I think, are just another season away of adding some offensive line help and stuff like that around Burrow. And I think they'll be competitive here in the next couple of years. But they're probably, 6 to 8 win team, I think, on that. And I think that the Browns and the Ravens are right there neck and neck with each other. You got to give the nod to the Ravens because they've won. They had that great shootout at the end of the year last year that went into overtime. And, Lamar came out of the locker room and beat him on that crazy play. That was an awesome game on Monday Night Football, and so I think they're pretty even. And the Ravens actually have a lot of. The one thing to look at there is they have all of their pass rushers are free agents. So like Pernell McPhee, Judon, all of them are up for free agency, and how they handle that will be really interesting. But certainly, I would give the nod to them as the favorites in the North, and with the Browns as a close second. I think that. It's right now it would be those two, and I pretty much think that you nailed that one.
So earlier on, you touched on Baker Mayfield with OBJ playing and how he plays with OBJ and without. I was wondering where you think Baker Mayfield's ceiling is, because for me, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with this, he is a top 10 quarterback in the league right now, and obviously he's still very young, so he's going to get better. And obviously in the division, I'd say for me it's between him and Lamar Jackson, because I don't think Ben Roethlisberger is as good as he has been in the past. So do you think that Baker Mayfield could become this sort of like in the echelons of like Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers?
That's tough. I think that I would put his ceiling like right below that, right? Like he's never going to be Patrick Mahomes. He's never going to be Aaron Rodgers, but he can be a Russell Wilson, right? Or he can be somebody like that. I think, just a step down, and certainly that's enough to win in the NFL. So I think the Browns have found their guy. When he is playing well, he's amazing. Like he, fits it into tight windows. He is competitive. Something clicks and he just goes off, right? Like we've seen a couple games where he's just been on fire, and his arm talent is what gets. I think people overlook his arm talent. His arm talent is exceptional. I mean, like if you saw that game, yards out of the back of the end zone into the stands or whatever on the Hail Mary. But like, I mean, sometimes he just throws it so hard, guys can't catch it. Like, but he into windows and stuff. But I think that he's extremely talented, and he's finally got the offense that fits what he does really well. Like, he is extremely accurate throwing on the run. And Kevin Stefanski will boot him out to the left, which is something that not a lot of offensive coordinators feel comfortable. But they'll boot him out to the left, out to the right, and he's very accurate throwing on the run that way. But yeah, I think he's a top 10 quarterback. I do. And they need to sign him to an extension. It'll either be this season or next off season. I would prefer this off season because I feel like in this offense, he's only going to do better. So you'd save yourself some money by doing it this offseason, And if you save yourself $3 to $5 million a year for the next 5 years, that's a player every offseason, right? So I would do it this offseason.
I was going to say, when you guys said, and this is no disrespect, because I'm a Broncos fan and I don't have a top 10 quarterback. We haven't had a top 10 quarterback in ages. But do we all agree that Baker Mayfield's a top 10 quarterback? Like, I feel like if I put him top 10, he would be around 9 or 8. But
now?
I'd put him in the bottom of the top 10, yeah. But I'll agree with Brad because, and this is going to sound controversial, I don't think there's a lot of actually good quarterbacks out in the NFL, really. Them ones that can, because if you look at it, the way I always look at a quarterback, and it is circumstantial as well. I guess if your team is really poor, fair enough. But if you're making the playoffs, normally the better quarterbacks are in the playoffs, barring a few. And if Cleveland are now going to be challenging for the division title, you would put Baker in that top 10. But yeah, towards the bottom end for me, personally.
I agree with what your question, right? Your question is he really a top 10 quarterback? Yet. Like, I think for sure he will be, but I understand your question if he is yet, because what we saw this year, the same struggles that he had last year for the first couple games, right? Inaccuracy. And then, like, he benefited a lot from the run game, right? The play action pass. And everybody was kind of like, okay, yeah, everybody can kind of be successful in the play action pass. But then late in the season, like I'd say the last 6 games or so and into the playoffs, they went to the straight drop back pass and they let him kind of let it loose a little bit in the pass game, and he was very accurate. I mean, if you look at his numbers strangely enough, after Odell went down, but if you look at his numbers after Odell went down or after week 6, I mean, it's like top 5 numbers in the NFL for the season. And I know that's like a 13 or whatever. That's not very good math, Brad. That's like an 11 game sample right there. So kind of a smaller sample size. But you also take that and you look at his rookie year where he was, broke the rookie touchdown record. And then you look at that 11 games where it kind of clicked for him. And I think you're looking at a guy that will be a top 10 quarterback if you want to say that he's not yet. I understand why you're hesitant to say that, but I think he will be.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I kind of feel like his ceiling is more top 10 rather than him right now. Like I'm saying, if I'm the GM of the franchise and you're giving me, and I've got the 11th pick, and I don't think Baker Mayfield gets picked in that top 10. But maybe that's just me. If I feel like he does have the capability, but if you're me, if I'm a GM, I'll take. So like, okay, let me try and name 10 quarterbacks. It won't be hard. We can all do it. We can say Aaron Rodgers, Russ, Mahomes, Lamar, Sean, maybe Joe Burrow. Okay, let's all put Joe Burrow though. I'm talking like GM wise potential ceiling.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Ceiling. So, but currently,
You better not put.
Stafford.
So you named 5 there. I would throw Josh Allen in the top 10, right?
Yeah.
After who else are you looking at? Matt Stafford.
Matt Ryan.
No, I would have put Matt. I'm sorry.
No, I think I'll take Baker over Matt Ryan. Ryan Tannehill.
No.
You think Tannehill's better than Baker?
Nope.
I don't think so.
I feel like obviously I do remember Ryan Tannehill out in Miami, and I do remember that Ryan Tannehill. But I'm thinking of the Ryan Tannehill at Tennessee. Bad. And obviously, if you have Derrick Henry, and they're kind of a smash mouth offense where they run first, and then Tannehill throws only when he has to. It's not hard for a quarterback. So I get it in that sense.
In there.
Say that again.
Dak Prescott.
Oh yeah, Dak. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll take Dak over Baker.
So that's 8, right? That's 8 with if you count Stafford, and I'm not counting Burrow because he's not there yet.
No.
Okay?
Yeah. It's not count Burrow.
But I wouldn't put.
Yep.
Who?
Kyler Murray.
Kyler, yeah.
Okay, so you think Kyler Murray is a top 10 quarterback right now?
No. That's the thing. I don't know.
No. I'm okay with where I put Baker in the bottom of the 9 and 10.
I'd like to get 9 and 10. No, then surely.
I
I
would have a hard time. This is going to sound controversial, but I'm not sold on Kyler Murray being. He's extremely talented. I'm not sold on him being a top 10 quarterback in the league yet.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't call him. I wouldn't call him a Tom. I wouldn't call Kyler Murray a top 10 right now. I do agree with that.
I think that you would have a hard time. I don't know. I would have a hard time picking between him and Baker as far as. I don't know. I just personally, from what I saw at the end of last season, like what Baker's ceiling could be. I mean, when they played all right, so talk about the Chiefs game, right? Mahomes' wide receivers are running wide open, right? Windows open for days because defense was poor at the time, let's be honest, right? But Baker, I mean, that Chiefs secondary is sticky, right? They hold, they grab, they're good. I mean, they're a good secondary in the playoffs, especially. And Baker kept him in the game. I mean, he's firing into tight windows. I mean, he's a gamer, man. I just think that he'll always get underestimated. He always will get underestimated. But I just think that he'll. I agree with you, though. He's probably right there around 10 right now. But I think his probably ceiling. I mean, I think that his ceiling is probably 5 to 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Heisman winner, and I did like him at Oklahoma. I wouldn't even say I don't like Baker Mayfield. I just thought, I'm kind of thinking about it now. I wouldn't mind putting him in the 9, 10 in a top 10. I just thought, Baker Mayfield top 10. That's kind of crazy. But then actually looking at it when you're naming them, it's not as far fetched as it seems. So it might be a good time to be a Browns fan right now.
Yeah,
a Broncos fan, that way. But,
we'll see. I mean, he's still got to prove a lot. So
yeah,
you're right about that.
Well, he's on the right track, especially getting Cleveland to their first playoff game. He's definitely on the right track.
I just want to touch on one thing, and that's the coach. Because we've talked about Baker, Mayfield, talk about the team. What has Stefanski done that's managed to work? The reason I say that is, I look at the Cleveland Browns, and the one thing I've always seen since I've, I guess, had interest in the Cleveland Browns is there's always issues with the coaches. There's always issues starting from the top of my head, Johnny Manziel. There's always issues with the quarterback. Somehow this relationship has worked, where to the point where we're sitting here and we're looking at them to win a division, possibly go to an AFC Championship game. Where, to be fair, literally just last season, they were this close to getting to an AFC Championship game. What has Stefanski managed to do that other coaches weren't able to do?
He is, to be honest, what he did last year was remarkable. So you think about it, he came in, they had the truncated, off season. He's got to meet all his players over Zoom, right? And do all that before they finally get on the field. They can only be on the field for still installing the offense the first week. They got hammered by the Ravens in week 1, right? And they clearly weren't ready at that point. But he is so the opposite of everything that every coach has ever been at the Browns. So, he's so calm and collected. He's all about preparation. He's an Ivy League guy, and, everybody in the Browns front office is from the Ivy League now. So, they've all hired, Harvard guys and stuff in there. So, it's a lot of analytical guys in there. But Stefanski is even-keeled. He never gets flustered. And he's very much as organized and prepared for every situation. I love the way he handles the players. He changed the culture in 1 year. So, I point to one instance where you can say, dang, man, how did he change the culture like that so fast? So you talk about Rashard Higgins the year before, right? He was fighting with Freddie Kitchens in the public. Kitchens was saying, "Oh, go ask him at his locker," and he was saying, "Oh, this back, I'm ready to play. I don't know why he's not playing me." And they were going back and forth each other. It was really immature. It was unprofessional, whole thing. And then this year, Higgins sits. They don't dress him for week 2 and 3, right? A healthy, and then he gets his chance in week 4 or 5 or whatever, and he has a great game, right? And then after the game, he's lauding the coaches. He's like, "I knew they had confidence in me. I just had to wait my turn." That's one, that's a 180 from a guy that was the opposite last year to falling in line perfectly. And that's just to me evidence of belief in the coach, belief in the system, belief in everybody that's in there, and a huge culture change. To be able for me to point at one thing and say that's how he did it, I have no idea. But he's certainly the right guy for the job, and I don't doubt him at all, because what he pulled off this year was pretty miraculous. Pardon me.
Yeah. And to think, in the playoff game, he wasn't allowed to even.
Yeah.
He wasn't allowed against the Steelers. He wasn't even allowed there. And what a job.
Yeah.
Considering how big the massive turnaround. I kind of compare Cleveland Browns to the Brooklyn Nets, of how they just turned around as a franchise. Obviously, the Brooklyn Nets with the whole Billy King train. And as a Nets fan, trust me, I went through it. And I can tell as a Browns fan, you guys have gone through years and years of just being a crap franchise, basically. No disrespect, but now look at you guys coming off a playoff win. You've got a good quarterback. You've got your franchise guy, and you're looking just to get the pieces to go to the next step. So let's say everything goes well in the draft. You get who you want. You sort out your defense. What do you feel is the goal for I know it's normally one step ahead, so maybe is it getting into the AFC Championship? Is it getting past the wild cards? Is it getting to the division game? Maybe winning the division? If you're Kevin Stefanski, what's the goal for this upcoming season?
I think that it's going to sound crazy, but I think that you have to, at this point, look at anything less than winning a championship or a Super Bowl is you have to kind of look at it as a not a failure. If they made it to the AFC Championship game, you would be like, okay, we made the next step. But the ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl. And the reason why is because you have 2 more years, right, where that Baker is still on his rookie contract. So we know how much those quarterback contracts impact cap room, right? So when a quarterback signs his extension and that new money hits, you're kind of hampered in what you can do as far as adding pieces. But to have a 2-year window where he's still on his rookie deal and they don't have to give him his, that extension money doesn't hit yet, that's 2 years that you can go out and be aggressive in free agency and add some guys and really make a run at it. And they're in that 2-year window right now, as far as I'm concerned.
I was going to mention something. It's kind of something and nothing, but it's something you see a lot with a lot of teams at the minute. The So the Chiefs have a lot of them, the random plays that like Pat Mahomes will just like throw the ball underhand and like random players will throw the ball.
Yeah.
The Browns seem to do that a lot with, you see Jarvis Landry throwing the ball, and Odell Beckham Jr. can throw the ball. I don't know if he has done it in Cleveland. I remember he threw a touchdown to Saquon Barkley when he was at the Giants. Please come back. I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
I mean, I just think that it's something that they have with Jarvis and Beckham. They're both incredible athletes. I mean, Jarvis has thrown some of the best footballs I've seen all year. He's left-handed. He throws that tight spiral. He took that. Yeah. High school quarterback. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys are. I mean, most NFL players were high school quarterbacks, right? Like, so there's tape somewhere of them like dragging like 12 people down the field for a touchdown somewhere in high school. But they both throw great balls. Actually, they've both thrown a touchdown as Browns, so to each other, I believe.
Yeah, I remember.
So yeah. So OBJ to Landry, and then Landry back to OBJ, and then they'll throw it to Baker too, coming out sometimes. I know Landry threw one in the I think it was maybe the first Pittsburgh game to Baker coming out of the backfield. So yeah, Landry throws a good ball, man, left-handed, and you don't really expect it. He throws it quick. He got lit up in that Tennessee game, and he put it right on the money to Higgins for the play. It was pretty remarkable. So that was a huge game for them because they hadn't really beat anybody of any significance yet, and they got the Titans and they jumped all over them. If you remember in that first half, they were up like 38-7 or something. So that was kind of like their coming out party. So, but yeah, Stefanski loves to get creative like that. He loves to use. He'll use Landry on a lot of those, jet sweeps, but cut it inside, and their offensive line is where it all starts for the Browns, is that offensive line, because with Chubb and Hunt behind those guys, they can be dominant with that offensive line for sure.
And even talking about that running game, isn't like the running game is such a big part. I feel like it's such an underrated part of Cleveland's offense. I feel like it may be even somehow the better part. I feel like Nick Chubb, and obviously adding we all know what Kareem Hunt could do, but Nick Chubb, I feel like he's such an underrated running back in the league. Like, you see the offense, you see Baker, you see the weapons, you see OBJ, but then you don't realize that you guys have a 1-2 punch. Like, you're just as good in the running game as nearly as good as Baltimore. Because
they're the third in the league in terms of rush yards.
Exactly. And Nick Chubb, he's like a mini little, I don't want to call him a mini Derrick Henry, but them type of power runners. And I don't think people realize, especially with that O-line as well, like, the Browns have a good chance to win the division. I feel, especially with the Ravens this season, if they don't, as you said, with the linebackers and the free agency, we don't know what's going to happen there. But I feel like the Ravens offense as well, I feel like we've all kind of got over, and even I remember Lamar saying this, we've all kind of got over Lamar Jackson. Like, at first, we've seen mobile quarterbacks and like a big McNabb and so on and Cam, but we haven't seen someone like Lamar so elusive. And then it kind of got to, like, especially last season, it got to like what's next. We know, we know what's going to have this option. Yeah, it's like, what else can you do? And fair enough, he won that. Well, the Baltimore defense beat Tennessee, but I feel like right now, looking at it, I still don't rate the Steelers. I did say the Steelers were like the worst 11-0 team I've ever seen. They were just scraping. And it showed when it came to the playoffs. I haven't trusted Big Ben for so long. If I'm looking at this now, I'm thinking the Browns kind of have, especially going into this offseason, kind of have the best chance of winning this division. I'm not a Browns fan, so I don't really know. I don't remember the last time the Browns ever won the AFC North.
I don't know. It was before they came back, so before '99, because they went away for a couple of years there and became the Ravens. So it was before that. I think maybe like 1994. I want to say maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Your best chance. This could be it.
Yeah. This is the chance. They got to go do it, and the thing is, that's why I point to the dead defense is like, really, they're getting their, they got Chubb back, Hunt back, the whole offensive line back. You got Landry back. You have Beckham coming back if you want him. Donovan Peoples-Jones, who they took in the 6th round last year, turned out to be a really good pick for them and productive offensively. So I'd like to see him bring back Higgins. Obviously, I think he's a big part of the offense. So they got all those guys coming back potentially, and if not, at the wide receiver position, I'm sure they can supplement that, right? But on the defensive side of the ball, it's like you've got Denzel Ward, who's a lockdown corner, and you've got Myles Garrett, who's an absolute beast, right, on the pass rush. But you've got your cornerstones there, but you them because last year it was just they were like a bend, but don't break and get a lot of turnovers defense, and they were fortunate to get a lot of turnovers, and that's how they won a lot of games. I don't think you can depend on the turnover. It's not something that you can depend on to get you out of trouble ever. You've got to get better in the secondary, at the linebacker position. And certainly they need to. Olivier Vernon, who was playing opposite Myles Garrett, had a career, and then tore his ACL at the end of the year there. So he's going to be a free agent. So he's gone. So they figure out that opposite Myles Garrett position is huge, for the pass rush, because your pass rush is only as good as your cornerbacks, and your cornerbacks are only as good as your pass rush, right? So,
and we heard that J.J. Watt was seriously considering going to the Browns. Obviously, he said he wanted to go to a contender, and he went to the Cardinals. So,
yeah, I'm okay with that. I was a little relieved actually to see that. I was concerned they were gonna spend the kind of money that the Cardinals spent on a guy that's 32 and injury prone, and I wasn't okay with all that. Like, you can take that money and get 2 or 3 players that are starting caliber in free agency this offseason instead of one guy. That I think you can address a lot more issues with that kind of money.
Yeah.
Oh, Abbas, were you gonna go? Or?
That's it. No, I was just literally touching on what you're saying there quickly. It's what I had the same feeling about J.J. Watt. The Cardinals, I know we're shifting, but the Cardinals have paid the amount of money for him to play 16 regular season games, and I can't imagine J.J. Watt playing 16 regular season games and playoff football afterwards. It's just not possible for me.
That's it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he will, and I mean, certainly the Cardinals. I mean, to the Cardinals, it's just such a weird thing to me because they have Hassan Reddick and they have Chandler Jones, 2 really good pass rush agents. So how are you going to treat them now? Right? And is J.J. Watt better than Hassan Reddick at this point in his career? I don't know if he is. It's just a weird, I don't know. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. It's a splashy move, right? Fans are going to love it. But ultimately, are you better now than you were if you would have just brought back Reddick? I don't know.
I think you said it best there. It's one of them splashy moves, but also, I don't know if you saw Hopkins as well. He tweeted out the future laugh is good thing. So it's a bit of bring back the old guys together. Obviously, you're missing the key component in Deshaun Watson, but
yeah.
You bring them two together. It's a bit of that Houston feeling back together. But I can understand it from that point, but I think they overpaid as well. Just one quick thing I wanted to say. You see Mahomes' contract that he's got right now. Obviously, it comes from winning the Super Bowl production and stuff. If somehow Baker Mayfield wins the Super Bowl this season, is there any possibility that the Browns could go all in very quickly on Baker Mayfield, providing cap space is there or anything like that? As in, not a smaller extension, but the long extension that...
like the 10-year deal type thing, like whatever they signed him to. Is that what you're asking? Like the long extension?
Long deal, yeah.
I don't think the Browns will do that. The guys in the front office are, they got DePodesta, who is the guy from Moneyball, right? And they've got Andrew Berry, and they're very analytical and they're very, well thought out and stuff. And I just don't think they would do a 10-year deal or anything like that. I know there's an out after 5 years, but I think that they would probably structure maybe like a 5-year deal with an out after 2 years if they had to, right? Like that makes a lot more sense to me. I don't think you want to commit yourself to Baker for 5 years with no out. You know what I mean? He's not Mahomes. Like if he, breaks his leg, or something like that, you got to be able to get out of that contract somehow at some point. So, and 5 years is a long time, right, to be committed to that kind of money. Now, certainly, I can't blame the Chiefs for doing that because in 2 years that deal is going to look like a bargain for Patrick Mahomes. So, certainly, it was well done on their part. It's going to look like because we're talking quarterbacks are going to be signing, $40 million deals, and every guy that signs is going to be higher, right? So every year, and that deal is going to look like a steal for the best quarterback in football, no question. And that's why they did it, right? I just don't. I don't think the Browns will go that far. I think they would probably sign a more traditional extension of like 5 years with, guaranteed money over the first 3 in case they had to get out or whatever.
Yeah. No, true. Listen, as much as Baker Mayfield is you guys franchise quarterback, I don't see anyone committing to Baker just yet. I don't think he's even done enough to be committed to 10 years. Like only Mahomes and Lamar Jackson's maybe will have those type of 10-year deals.
Dak Prescott seems to think he's deserving of some sort of Mahomes deal.
Well, that's what happens with the Dallas Cowboys. And unfortunately in the NFL, we've seen a lot of average quarterbacks get paid.
Yeah,
so everyone wants to try and get paid. I've seen Brock Osweiler get crazy amount of money. You know what I mean? Just for beating the Patriots when he was with us. I've seen people want to get paid what they're worth, and especially you look at the market. Your agent will look at the market and say, okay, if this guy can get this, my guy can get this. So I don't expect Baker to get the Mahomes type of deal, but maybe the Browns cash in on him. They might get a 5-year, as he said, 5 years with 2 top down, but he'll get paid after that rookie.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah,
he'll definitely get paid.
That's why I kind of wish they would do it this year.
It was cheap.
I would want them to do it if possible. You would want them to do it before the Josh Allen deal, before the Lamar Jackson deal. I mean, all these deals are going to hit at the same time, right? And every one is going to dictate the next one. So the sooner you do it, the probably more better off you are. Now they may be sitting back and going, "We haven't seen enough yet. We need to see more from Baker." And if that's the way they feel, that's understandable. But it's going to cost you, though, because I honestly don't see him going out in this offense. Like, if it was, another new offensive coordinator and we didn't know what was going to happen, I could see him going out and having, like, an uneven season like he had his second year. But him coming back with Stefanski and the success we saw at the end of last year, I just only see him getting better in this offense, which is just going to command more money. And which is a good problem to have ultimately at the end. So, I mean, if we're sitting here next off season and you guys have me on and we're like, oh, yeah, he can command $40 million now and they could have saved some money, that's a good problem to have if you're the Browns. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not the end of the world. But we're going to wrap it up there. Normally at the end of the Blitz, Brad, we let our guests shout out what they're doing. So, floor is yours. Feel free to shout out what you got going on and what you got coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, All Eyes on Cleveland is my baby. It started as a podcast, now just like you on YouTube, and have a couple shows a week, different guests. We just had, like I said, Mike Giannetti, the founder of Spot Track, on to kind of break down the salary cap this year and all that stuff. And I had a show last night, actually, with Greg Tomset of Cover One standing. So yeah, go to All Eyes on YouTube channel. subscribe and watch. And then I write over at USA Today Sports Media Group's thebrownswire.com, covering the Browns over there too. And so that's what I'm up to, and that's what I'll be doing. So should be a fun off season. Honestly, it'll be interesting to say the least.
Honestly, I can't wait. We were supposed to. I think it was like last week. We were supposed to have the combine, and I just saw it. And I just got so upset. And I was thinking, but anyway, I feel like it's still going to be a decent off season, depending on who you support. If you're a Broncos fan, I don't know. It's always the same old stuff in the Broncos. But we're not here to talk about the Broncos.
What are the Broncos going to do at quarterback?
I've watched Drew Lock since he was in Mizzou. Like my stocks are in Drew Lock. I still have faith in him because I feel like we kind of Mr. Elway built this offense around him. Like we got Albert O from Mizzou just because they had a tight connection, and we have a really good offense. I still feel like they actually look at the Broncos. If we keep a lot of our people, we sign Justin Simmons, we're a very good quarterback away from contending. We have a very good offense. We have Jerry.
I agree.
We have Cortland Sutton. And I feel like either if Deshaun wants to come, I know there's some rumors that it's almost I've got to trade Drew Lock. As much as I love Drew Lock, sorry, bro. Give me Deshaun and we're contending and we're going to be right back up there. But if not, I don't mind sticking with Drew Lock. I still want to give him one more season because he's shown glimpses. Obviously, like he was very inaccurate and kept throwing picks. And then he had that game at Carolina where I watched it, just had a perfect game. I was thinking, so there is a quarterback there when he's in the mood. And he's a cool guy. So I still kind of see him. Maybe is he our franchise guy? I don't know just yet. I might give him one more season, half a season, if not. But if Deshaun comes, I won't say no.
For sure. I mean, if they were to get Deshaun, they would be instant Super Bowl contenders, man. They're ready-made for the quarterback, right? So, they got a lot of talent over there for sure. Cool stuff.
Yeah, I just hope, man. But, Brad, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. You guys are fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Cheers. Thank you, man. Take care.